Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L and now let's talk Shokugeki no Soma chapter. Let me look at the chapter title real quick. 284, A Dying Chef. There we go. So we are fully into the blue now and another week's passed, and here's ultimately what I'm thinking about it. You know, not gonna make any more Yu-Gi-Oh jokes. We fully understand that we're in the Yu-Gi-Oh era of Shokugeki no Soma now. And my complaint for this is always going to be, Soma has shown that it can do character drama better than Yu-Gi-Oh! And one thing that I'm really sad about in this chapter is just how the rhetoric has kind of devolved. Because when you look through the chapter, there were so many pages of people saying the light side guys and the dark side guys. And it's just like, come on, man. Both parties are working professionals, and not minimizing, but generalizing people into the light side and dark side, just, it's kind of silly. Because what does that what does it really differentiate, right? What does it say about both sides? Well, on the light side, you have guys who allegedly own restaurants and have been working in the industry for at least a couple of years. They've gone through the stress of trying to have a successful business. They're small business holders, or they're working for a bigger company. Point is, you know, it's funny how you have this introduction of these bigger, badder people, and you have to kind of minimize the other people who allegedly should be relatively strong in this field, right? Even in the first gate, the basic assumption should be that the people in that first stage have roughly the same skill level as Soma, right? I think the saddest thing about this whole thing is that because you have the Midnight Chefs as the focal point, it's gonna end up making these other legitimate chefs, these other legal chefs, it's gonna end up making them, well, I don't know, it's gonna end up making them seem, oh, actually a good comparison, it's gonna make them end up seeming like that kid that Soma just trounced at the beach, right? Like this level of incompetency, right? Because you know how Soma does things. You have the main characters or the secondary characters who get things right, and then you have the masses who fail only to show how hard of a challenge this is. So right now, these adult chefs, or these guys who are supposed to have experience, are pretty much the same as the no-names of Totsuki, at least in terms of how the story is using them, right? And I think that's the most unfortunate thing. It's just, it doesn't feel as satisfying. It's going to be interesting to see how things change when they get into the second level and the third level. But for now, I feel bad for the light side chefs, because they have to be the ones up to the slaughter to just establish why the dark chefs are so incredible. And for this chapter, the reason that the dark chefs are so incredible is just because apparently they are used to cooking for people who are dying, and that is the distinguishing factor between the two groups. Although, if you think about it, there's really nothing stopping a light side chef from making food for a dying person. Like if a person was terminal, they're technically going to cook they're technically going to cook food for them, right? Like that's not that incredible of a situation to imagine happening on the light side. So it's just, it's a bit weird, but all things considered, I do think the author did something pretty interesting with this part of the chapter, just setting up this old man who's on his way to die, and you have like this pretty interesting talk about Japanese chefs try and make everything feel like home. And you know, the one that I'm thinking about during that is definitely Megumi. But yeah, you have the Japanese chefs wanting to make this guy feel like he's at home, whereas you have the dark chefs saying like, yeah, give him a meal that makes him think, whoa, I can die now. And that's a pretty interesting talk. That's a pretty interesting idea. Although I think if you got into it, I haven't gotten into myself though, so I can't really say for sure. But I think if you were to debate out this approach, I think you could find some flaws with it. Or just, you could point out how silly it is. But for at least just selling a concept, I thought, okay, that was pretty cool. And also knowing about the guy's history was just kind of seasoning on the whole backstory. I did find it very interesting. So by the end of it, you know that Soma's going to have a unique perspective to this, because that's how it goes, right? Soma's going to have the main character perspective. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of do like where it seems Soma's going with it, because Soma seems to be thinking that he wants to make a meal that maybe makes the guy think, how could I die now? Because Soma's issue is with it being the Last Supper. So I wonder if Soma's thinking, I'm gonna make a meal that makes this guy want to live 5 years more. And if he does that, I'm gonna think that's kind of cruel if you're thinking about it, because this guy's on his deathbed and Soma's making him a meal that inspires him to want to live longer. I find it odd. I think it could be misconstrued to be very cruel on Soma's part, but I understand what the author's trying to say with that. I think that would be interesting, and it is just there to contrast Soma with the Dark Chefs. As on the Dark Chef side, we have the one guy that looks like he's directly from Yu-Gi-Oh! And he's giving us the narration here. I do like that he's being kind of friendly with Soma. I really enjoy that, because the worst thing that we can get here are caricatures. I would like at least minor nuance to it, and with him there, at least he's, I guess, properly gauging Soma up, and I really appreciate that, because at this point Soma does deserve to be looked at with cautious eyes, because he is legitimately incredible. So I like that we have that going on there, and I do like this Dark Chef's commentary. So far, of all the Dark Chefs, even though this guy's gonna be relatively unimportant, I like him a lot. I think he's cool. I think he's neat. I want to see him continue watching Soma, and I would love it if there's a little bit of a dynamic forming between the two. Just this guy watching Soma and being like, whoa, yeah, this kid's pretty cool. Because there's nothing saying, like, if we're at this point where we're at a competition with criminals, we might as well have them develop actual personalities and show, like, hey, this guy can be reasonable sometimes. Anyway, with this chapter, it was overly simple, because what it's doing is it's showing why the good chefs suck and why the midnight chefs rock for this particular event, and it's also showing a perspective that the other people have not really grasped, that Soma's grasping. So good enough. It shows why the main character is special. It shows why the Dark Chefs are cool, I guess, and at the very least we got the characterization for one of the Dark Chefs that I think is overall a pretty okay one. And I'm saying okay, and I'm trying to be careful, because you know this guy's probably going to be a minor character. I don't want to get too invested with him. Overall, I am interested to see next week, and one thing that I really like is that we're not spending time on the cooking, because God knows the chapters where it's just 15 pages of cooking, I can't do anything about those. So I like this, where you see the dishes and then you just get to see the results, and that's pretty cool. I'm gonna enjoy if they do that at the very least. Anyway guys, let me know what you thought down below, and let's leave it there. Till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day